2,500 years ago, across the plains beneath the Himalayas, lay the land of the Shakya clan and its capital, Kapilavastu. It was ruled by King Suddhodana, a just and powerful king. His queen was Maya, gentle and beloved by all. They had everything, but the one thing they longed for most, a child. Then, one full moon night, Queen Maya had a dream unlike any other. She was carried to a shining lake high in the mountains, bathed and robed by celestial beings. And from the sky descended a magnificent white elephant, a white lotus in its trunk. Tradition tells that it circled her 3 times and gently entered her side. The court sages read the dream with wonder. The queen would bear a son, they said, destined for a greatness the world had never seen. As the birth drew near, the queen set out, by custom, for her family's home. But the journey would not wait. In a blossoming garden called Lumbini, beneath a flowering sal tree, her son was born on the full moon day of Vesak. Tradition tells the newborn took 7 steps, and where his feet touched the earth, lotus flowers bloomed, a sign of a life that would touch the whole world. There was joy across the kingdom, but touched by sorrow. Just 7 days later, Queen Maya passed away. The child would be raised by her devoted sister, Maha Prajapati. Word of the birth reached a great sage, an old hermit named Asita, deep in his mountain hermitage. He came at once. When Asita looked upon the child, he did something no one expected. First, he smiled. Then he wept. "Why do you weep?" the alarmed king asked. "Is danger coming to my son?" The sage shook his head. "Your son bears the marks of a great being. He will become either a mighty king who rules the world, or he will leave it all behind and become a Buddha, an awakened one, a teacher for all humanity." "I weep," he said softly, "not for him, but for myself. For I am old, and I will not live to hear him teach the truth he will one day find." Days later, 8 Brahmins came to name him. 7 raised 2 fingers, king or Buddha. But the youngest, Kondana, raised only 1. This child, he was sure, would become a Buddha. They named him Siddhartha, one who achieves his goal. King Suddhodana had heard enough of Buddhas and renunciation. He wanted an heir to his throne, not a wandering beggar. So he made a decision. He would build a world so perfect his son would never wish to leave it. 3 magnificent palaces, one for each season, cool for summer, warm for winter, sheltered for the rains. Within their walls, the prince knew only beauty, music, dancers, endless pleasures. Age, sickness, and sorrow were kept far beyond the gates. He was never to see them. He grew into a young man of rare grace, gentle in heart, unmatched in the warrior's arts. In time, he married the Princess Yasodhara, and she bore him a son, Rahula. By every measure, he had everything. And yet, behind the perfect walls, a quiet question had begun to stir, one the palace could not answer. One day, the prince asked to see the city beyond the gates. The king ordered the streets swept clean, the old and sick hidden. But some things cannot be hidden forever. Riding out with his charioteer Chana, the prince saw a man bent and trembling, leaning on a staff, his face lined with years. What is wrong with him? That is old age, my prince, said Chana. It comes to everyone, to you, to me, to all who live. The prince fell silent. He had never known. On another day, he saw a man racked with illness, crying out, "That is sickness, my prince. No one is spared." Then a third sight, a lifeless body carried through the streets, mourners weeping behind it. This is death, the end that waits for us all. Something in the prince broke open. If age, sickness, and death await everyone, then what is all this pleasure worth? The gilded palace suddenly felt like a beautiful prison. But there was a fourth sight, a man in simple robes walking calmly through the chaos of the world, his face utterly at peace. A holy man, my prince, one who has left the world to seek an end to suffering. And in that peaceful face, Siddhartha saw not despair, but a door. Perhaps there was a way beyond old age, sickness, and death, and he resolved to find it. That night, the palace held a great celebration, but its music brought the prince no joy. He saw only how fleeting it all was. He went quietly to where Yasodhara slept with their newborn son. He longed to hold the child one last time, but feared to wake them. So he stood in the doorway and said a silent farewell. In the deep of night, he woke his faithful charioteer. "Chana, saddle Kanthaka. Tonight, I leave." On his great white horse, with only Chana beside him, Prince Siddhartha rode out through the sleeping city, past the gates, into the dark, leaving his throne, his family, everything he had known. They rode until they reached the far bank of a river called Anoma, at the very edge of the kingdom. There, the prince dismounted. He drew his sword and cut away his long royal hair. He set aside his silks for the simple robes of a wandering seeker. Then he turned to Chana. "Take Kanthaka home. Tell them I have not abandoned them. I go to find something that can help us all." Weeping, Chana obeyed. And so At 29, the prince became a homeless seeker of truth. The palace was behind him. The long road to awakening lay ahead. From a sheltered prince to a wandering seeker, this was the first great turning. What he would discover in the years to come would change not only his life, but the lives of millions for thousands of years to come.